just got happier in here. I'm Michelle Murad. If you're just tuning in for the very first time, along with...
That's a good note. I'm Kyle Trueblood.
And the lovely happiness coach, Dannie De Novo. How are you?
Hey, wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks
Good to
for
see you.
being here. So you were at the event last night.
I was, yes.
How was that like for you?
It was phenomenal. I mean, just incredible to see this organization, what they've done for people.
Yeah.
And you can always tell the caliber of an organization by the people who show up to an event like that.
Right?
So many good-hearted, kind people in that room. I mean, just took my breath away.
It really did. Honestly, it was palpable, and I think that's why like my energy this morning was like so clear. And I don't know, like it's true when you immerse yourself with people that are like-minded, that are trying to like inspire change. You just like it just absorbs into every cell of your being. And there was one song, I don't know if you remember them playing. It was I think it's Tears of Jupiter or Jupiter. Yes, Jupiter. Tears of Jupiter. And I read about it and I listened to it last night before I went to bed, and it was all about like him losing his mom and like her like going on this journey and finding happiness and coming back, and it was just like it was just amazing. So I think we have a clip of you last night on the red carpet looking phenomenal. Let's take a look.
Recovery, it's so exciting.
Yes.
How are you involved with this organization?
I've been following them for a long time. I'm a happiness coach,
Okay.
and music means so much to happiness. It can help alleviate anxiety and stress, can really get rid of symptoms of depression. It makes you healthy, and it even makes you smarter. So to me, it's an immediate fix. It's an immediate gateway into our soul.
I love that. And are you integrally involved in the organization, in the groups? Do you help with the groups at all?
I've just gotten involved now, so I'm really privileged to be here tonight, but I've seen the magic that this has created in people's lives, and so it's just fascinating to watch how people progress through it.
Yeah, I agree. I think music is absolutely one of the best things for our soul. And I always say, like, if we could all just get together around music, we'd all be much happier, right?
You would. You know, my daughter's 7 years old, and I can see a shift in her when I put a song on in the car.
Yeah.
Her anxiety goes away. She feels upbeat. She's ready for the day.
Yeah.
So if you can do that just by pressing a button in your vehicle, imagine what actually touching the instruments, singing the song, what that can do for you.
Yeah.
So cool. I love that. So what's your daughter's go-to song?
She doesn't have a go-to, but she definitely has different genres she loves.
Okay.
Okay, she hates country.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah.
She
So
hates it.
there's
Okay.
no
She's not
country
into
allowed.
it. She's
She's
not into
very into like the 2000 era
Oh,
kind of
okay.
thing. Yeah.
Very nice.
Also very into Nicki Minaj.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. Okay, so tell me, how does one become a happiness coach? Have you always been happy, or like what was it for you that was like, I'm gonna be a happiness coach?
No, I was honestly the expert in unhappiness for a
Really?
really long time, for most of my life, in fact. And I was living the life that, I thought everyone was supposed to live. I was a lawyer. I had a really good
Oh
job.
my goodness.
Right. I went to work every day. I went to the gym, the grocery store, paid the bills, just like everybody else.
You were 9 to no. Well, I would want to say 9 to 5, but lawyers. Are
Well, no, I built a lot more hours
yeah,
than that.
yeah,
So
they're like
it's,
80
it's
hours.
really not the happiest profession. So I kind of like fit in really well at the time.
Yeah.
All right. Really high in addiction. So I was probably drinking more than I should have anyway. Right.
Right.
And going through the motions of day to day, I had the house, I had the husband, I had everything you were supposed to have, the nice car, whatever. But I wasn't really enjoying life. I was just kind of going through the motions of
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
And then I had my daughter.
Aw.
And I loved being a mom. It was the first time in life where I felt like I was really doing something important.
That's so
right?
amazing.
But I was still miserable. And then
least you're honest.
around her, I was great, but everywhere else, miserable, right?
Really?
Yeah, just miserable. Just,
Okay.
like in my own head all the time, anxious, depressed, just not happy.
Yeah.
And one night I'm making dinner and I'm stirring this pot on the stove,
What are you
and
making?
I was
I have to
making
visuals.
my spaghetti sauce,
Okay.
which is actually really good.
That sounds really
Okay,
good.
so that kind of makes me happy.
Okay.
And my baby was like a year old, right? She's on the floor of the kitchen and she's got her play bowls and spoons and she's just kind of banging around. And she stops and she looks up at me for a second, like, hey, mom, like, pay attention. And she picked up that bowl and spoon and she started mimicking my stirring, like very deliberate, slowly, like I was stirring the sauce. And, it was the first time she had ever done anything like that. So she was like a little human being all of a sudden. And I leaned over and I said, yeah, just like mommy.
Aw.
and she was so proud. And then, but I just almost fainted on top of her after that. I thought I was going to throw up all over the kitchen floor because I suddenly realized she was copying my every single move. And it didn't matter what I said, it mattered what I did. And I was teaching her how to live this very depressed, lonely, unfulfilled life. So I sat on the floor next to her and I grabbed her in a big hug and cried my eyes out. And I promised her right then and there I was going to learn everything there was to know about happiness because I was not going to let her go down the same road I went down. I didn't think I was wired for happiness. I didn't think it would ever happen for me. But I figured, you know what? She's young enough. She can learn and she can do it the right way. So I started studying happiness like I had studied law in law school, just getting all the information I could, highlighting again, going through that.
What was the first book?
I started with religious texts because I really didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know where to start. So I figured, I'll try philosophy. I'll try religion. I loved Robert Camus. He was the one that talks about the rolling of the boulder up the hill just so they can roll down the other side and then you have to do it again, right?
Very cool.
So that's kind of the area where I started. And I had been raised Roman Catholic. I didn't really feel like I had the answers there. So I was like, oh, maybe another religion has better ideas.
Yeah.
And I just started doing that. And when you start to immerse yourself in this kind of information, people and other information starts to find its way to you, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I'm on the internet and I'm finding people who are saying stuff, and I'm like, hey, you know what? That idea sounds like something that might be good. I'm gonna follow that person, see what else they have, and then you would follow that person, and then they would mention somebody else. You say, oh, okay, I'm gonna check that person out. And so I just started kind of weaving through this map of my own making, if you will, trying out all of these different things, what really does work to make people happy, right? But I was actually engaging in the work. I was doing the behavior, and then I started working with Bob Proctor was one of my first gurus. Yeah, and
That's so cool.
he really liked me. I was very fortunate.
You worked with him one-on-one
Yes,
in real life?
yes.
Wow.
I mean, he just passed away.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
He's a personal development person who
He was in The Secret.
he was in The Secret.
Yeah.
Yes,
Not the movie,
the writing.
documentary.
the documentary.
The documentary.
Yes.
We've
the
had
book, yes.
discussions about the movie version and the documentary because there are two.
Right.
the
Yes.
movies.
Yes. I haven't seen the movie.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
The one with Katie
I'm a
Holmes.
purist. Like,
The one with Katie Holmes.
Yeah, I haven't seen
That's
that.
the one I saw.
Is that good? I don't know. Did it raise your vibration?
It had its
Yeah.
messages.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, that's good. It
That's
did its
so
job
cool that
then.
You worked with Bob Proctor. What an incredible person to work with.
He was amazing, and he's the first person that made me open my eyes to see what I was doing wrong. And he wasn't always, it wasn't always like bubbles and sunshine
sure it
with him
wasn't.
either, right?
sure
I mean,
it
he
wasn't.
backed me into a corner one day and kind of lit me up, but I needed it.
Yeah.
Because he's the first person that made me see that I was feeling sorry for myself a lot of the time, that I didn't even realize I was stuck in that energy.
Wow.
And
Is that how he backed you into a corner? With just the self-pity kind of a thing?
No, I was kind of arguing a point with him, and he was always so patient with people, but I could tell he was getting frustrated with me, not with himself or the argument, right? He was just like, please, like, open your eyes and see yourself. And so he just kind of like got in my face a little bit in this room full of people,
man.
kind of like, hey, like, let's get your attention, right? And it did. It woke me up a little bit, which is definitely what I needed, and he knew that,
Can we
right?
go into that just like a little bit?
Yeah.
Like what was the topic of conversation?
So one of the things that he always used to say is that he was a very shy individual. He's very introverted. I always felt the same way. Not good on stage, not good speaking. So what he did is he went out and he found all of these people that became his mentor. And he would study them on, he picked out one person for stage presence. And so he would try to emulate that. And someone out for how they spoke about certain things. And then somebody about how they dressed. And he even and picked out somebody about how they walked. And he tried to mimic that
We were
walk.
just talking about
Right.
this morning.
That's
Right.
great.
So he put together basically this stage character and assumed that role, right? And so what he was always saying to me and to everyone was, you have to become the person, right? You have
Right.
you can't just think about it and write about it. You actually got to become
become
that
that
person.
Yeah.
And so that's what he and I were working on at the time because my story wasn't the greatest. I had carried a lot of shame about my depression and anxiety going through my life. And So I said, okay, I'm ready. Are you really going to kick me in the butt this time? Because you keep saying you're going to, and you don't. And I think he heard that. And he was like, oh, you got kicked in the butt? I'm about to kick you in the butt, right?
I'm gonna bring it.
Yeah.
So he just, I mean, was a very tall man. I'm not very tall at all. So he was sort of towering over me in this room. And it was in his,
Physically.
yeah, it was in his house too. It was in his
wow.
living room,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Oh man.
And so he just got me backed against the wall, and he said, he's like, I'll light you up. Don't worry, we'll get to it. He said, and then he made me cry because he said, but listen, he said, I think you've had it hard for a long time. He said, what I really think you need is someone to love you. And then he gave me a big hug. And so of course now I'm just like bawling my eyes out in this room full of people are just like, what just happened? Because he was yelling and now you're crying and hugging, So yeah, so it was a lot of really hard work with him, but work that I needed to do. And I'm so grateful for it.
Oh, well, I'm sure everyone that works with you is grateful that you went through that hard work. So
Well, I
talk to
don't
us
know.
about- No, you don't know.
Sometimes they get a little upset with me
From the
too.
horse's mouth, they got to hear that it's like hard work. It's not easy to
Yeah.
be happy, and like just being happy is not a thing.
It's not. I went through a lot, and it wasn't that long ago that I started this journey either. My daughter's only 7. I tell people that I was at a point in my life where I could not make eye contact with myself in my own bathroom mirror. I was completely devoid of any self-worth, right? I just been broken down to the point where I just didn't think that I was worthy of anything, of putting time into myself, of seeking out my own happiness or doing anything that I thought was important to me, right?
Yeah.
And so to overcome that and then to be able to sit on a television show and talk to people
Yeah.
about your journey, like there's a lot of work that has to be done
100%.
between those two periods of time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't pretty. It really wasn't,
How long of time are we talking here?
Well, my daughter's 7. I started the journey when she was about 1.
1, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, bit lightning fast
Yeah.
when you really start to implement this stuff.
For
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, but the trick is consistency too. This is what I tell people all the time is if you want happiness, you've got to work at it every single day, right? Like
Right.
I want muscles, I go to the gym, but I got to go consistently.
Yeah.
And then when I get the muscle, I've got to go in and maintain the muscle.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So here's a good thing.
Yes.
I ran a personal training business and for like 2 years, and what I would say to my clients was like, you have to be motivated.
Yeah.
I'll help you achieve what you want to achieve, but you have to want it.
Right.
So is that something that you see in like your happiness coaching?
Yes.
They're like
You
they
have
have
to.
to come wanting to be happy. or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to want it. Again, there's no external thing that's going to motivate you to go through that. But your why has to be big enough to get through the fear, right? So I have a very simple formula for if you want to be happy. I
what is-
narrowed
what
it
is it?
down. Okay. It's 2
I'm so
things.
excited.
Great.
Okay. The first part is so the whole theme of happiness is around bravery. If you want to be happy, you have to be brave.
Yes. I love it so
Okay.
much.
So
Okay.
the first part is you have to be able to hear that voice within your heart that tells you those things that will make you happy because your heart knows.
Yeah.
Okay. But we've got clutter up here. We've got these stories that we've taken on throughout our lifetime, these things that we believe about ourselves, and we don't hear that voice anymore. So you've got to be brave enough to be honest with yourself about what that voice is really saying to you.
Yeah.
And then the second part is then after you hear that voice, you've got to be brave enough to act in conformity with that voice.
That's the hard. That's the hardest part. I think when you hear it and then you have to act through it.
Yes.
I think it's because you don't know what to do, not that you don't want to.
Maybe. You probably know the first step.
Okay.
Yeah.
But people are afraid to take that first step because it's, well, what's my spouse or my partner going to say?
Sure.
Right.
What are my kids going to think? What is my mom going to, oh my goodness, what is my mom going to say about all of this, right? Or you just have these beliefs about yourself that are untrue, like that I wasn't worthy, right? That maybe someone believes they're not smart enough, now they're too old to do something, or they're just not good enough, right? So many ideas that we put in our own heads that we build these huge stories about over time, and they keep us from going out there and from being happy. When you just forget about that stuff and you don't listen to the people around you and you just don't care what people think anymore, not in like a mean way, but just in a like, I have to do this for me.
From a heart, your own heart. space.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you can get to that point, then you'll take off, just like I did. But it takes a lot to get there.
So cool. I love that. Last night was really for me a heart opening event.
Was it?
Yes. I've always felt like my heart has always been open, but it was like there was again something about just being around so many people that there's like at least what I felt, it was just such an open space.
Right.
And a judgment-free zone. I really truly felt that in every fiber of my being it was a place for me to just like be. I didn't really talk much, which is like odd for me because I'm usually.
You were listening.
I was listening.
Yeah.
And I was present. I heard the music. I heard the comedy. I heard every word out of everyone's like mouth. Like it was just.
You're just processing.
And then when I got home, I just felt like this like incredible like. Just this whole breakthrough of like what I need to do in my own life and my own journey. I'm not a happiness coach, but it's interesting what you said about like how you have to like walk your walk and talk your talk. Like so this morning I was like, what does a happy person dress like? What does a happy person walk like? How does a successful person like get ready in the morning? That like I was like, trying to like do all those things in my brain before I got here. So I thought it was really interesting that we had you on. And you're saying these things right back to
you can envision it for yourself, right? I mean, you can go out and find people that you like, that you think are doing these things, right? But my daughter said something interesting to me before I left on my last trip, and she said she came out in this red dress, and she's flings her hair back, and
What's her name?
Her name's Carson.
Oh, what a great name!
She says, "I'm going to be the next Dannie De Novo."
Oh,
and just so and she's actually written 2 books. They're both bestsellers, so she's trying to like follow mom, right? And I said that's great. I said, but what I'd really love for you to do is to be the original Carson De Novo, right? So yeah, it's great to like find inspiration in other things, but again, you really want to pave the way from here, right? And you said, your heart opened up. The great thing about your heart opening is there is no limit to that, right? And you can sit in spaces like this and just experience the quiet, subtle joy of just every little moment. And that is where happiness lives.
You said there's a lot of work to be done.
There is.
As a coach, like, can we at least go over the steps or like the criteria in some way? Like, what is the hard work?
Yes, I'll be happy to consult with you.
I'm like, I don't think she's gonna give all her secrets away.
Not the secrets,
No.
but like a broad sweep over for the general public. Like, what would I have to do? What am I looking for that she could help me with, essentially? Like, what would that be?
Well, I say it differs between men and women.
Okay.
When men come to me, they typically have this feeling of there's something missing in my life. Okay. But I can't pinpoint it. I can't put my finger on it. So typically they've done everything that they were told by society they were supposed to do. They've either gone to college or they've started their careers and they're making money and they're taking care of some part of their family, whether it's their children or their parents or whatever. They have a nice place to live. They're living the life kind of like I was, doing all these things, checked off all these boxes, and all of a sudden they hit this period in their life where all these milestones have been met, and all of a sudden they're just like, what I did all of this stuff, but there's not any part of me in it anymore. How do I reconnect to that? Right?
Got it.
So when I say I'm a happiness coach, a lot of men just kind of giggle and they're like, oh, happiness coach, what does that do? Or what does that even mean? And then I start to talk to them, and I'm usually pretty good at reading people's energy. So I can tell pretty quickly if you're truly happy or you're not. And you just start bringing stuff out of them and you realize they've lost that connectedness feeling, right? So with men, a lot of times I start in kind of a spiritual space to help them sort of find their way back again to that voice inside of their heart, right? So usually with men, it's a lot more discovery on the beginning. First, it's sort of, convincing them that they could do work that would actually make them happy.
They can actually be happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then getting back to that point of allowing themselves to be vulnerable enough with themselves, because, they're always kind of like the provider and in the person that's the leader, or you lean on me when times are tough, right? So allowing yourself to sort of take a different role with yourself and find that space where you can be vulnerable with yourself again. So that's where I start with men, typically.
That's good.
We're getting played off. I love you. I think you're amazing and want to know so much more. And I know the people that are watching feel the same way. Okay, this is your camera. How can they get in contact with you? Plug away anything you want to say and share for our viewers at home.
Well, you can start with my website. It's DannieDeNovo.com, and I've got lots of tips and free things that you can try there, even foods that you can eat if you want to be happy. I'm on social media everywhere at Dannie De Novo, and you can email me, Dannie@DannieDeNovo.com, and all of my books are on Amazon.com, so you can find me there too.
Yes, yay, Dannie De Novo. Listen, I know you could enjoy happiness. strive for more happiness. Check out Dannie De Novo. Check out her book. You will not miss a beat. If you're gonna miss a beat, if you don't get them. It was lovely having you on the show. I'm Marissa Ball. We'll see you all tomorrow. And wherever you are in your day, I hope you find the good in it and spread it to whomever you may. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.